Could the 2015 Iran nuclear deal be restored? That's what's at stake today as representatives from Iran, the U.S., and several European nations meet in Vienna.
That's right. You might remember the agreement was a major achievement for then President Barack Obama. The deal eased sanctions on Iran in return for strict limits on its nuclear program. But in 2018, former President Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of the deal, reimposed the old sanctions, and introduced hundreds of new ones. Here to help us break down the new talks, we have political scientist and professor at Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs, Ian Bremmer. Ian, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this one. So we know there's a lot of moving parts in these meetings, but what are the prospects of a new deal being reached?
They're very low. In fact, the Iranian government refused to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency just last week access to sites to verify their levels of enriched uranium. We've got big challenges because the Iranians are saying that they refuse to come back into the deal unless the Americans ensure that the deal will be permanent, that a future administration won't be able to pull out of it. The U.S. is unwilling to do that. There's obviously no trust, and the Iranians think they're in a much better geopolitical position than they were a few years ago. They can handle the sanctions. Energy prices are high, and countries in the region, like the Gulf states, allies of the U.S., are more willing to engage with Iran directly.
So what cards does the U.S. have left to play then if you think that a deal is unlikely to be made with these talks?
Well, we've got sanctions, obviously, and short of that, the plan B that the Americans have been talking about is actually a smaller deal, which is give the Iranians some of the relief that they would have gotten in the Iranian nuclear deal if they returned to it, and have the Iranians freeze their program verifiably where it is right now, which, by the way, is literally just 1 month away from nuclear breakout capabilities. And if they wanted to develop a nuclear weapon, they would have the enriched uranium levels to be able to do it. That's 4 weeks away. That is the American plan B. The problem is that the plan B for other countries in the region is very different. For Israel, that's unacceptable. The plan B is increasingly take direct both espionage and sabotage and military strikes against Iran to prevent them from being that close to nuclear capability. While for the Saudis, for the Emiratis, for other American allies in the region, the plan B is, why do we care so much about nukes they'll never use? We're more worried about fighting with them in proxies across the region and support for terrorism. We want to engage with Iran directly. So the United States doesn't really have an effective coordinated plan B.
And Ian, quickly, is there any chance that the original deal is just reinstated?
That's the problem. The U.S. under the Trump administration left the original deal unilaterally. Every other signatory, allies and adversaries of the U.S. opposed that. And now, 4 years later, the ability of the United States to get back into the deal isn't there. You've got a new Iranian government that's more hardline, and they're saying no thank you. So unfortunately, this is one where the lack of consistency in U.S. foreign policy is really undermining our own national interests.
Ian Bremmer, thank you so much for walking us through that.
Sure.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.